Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Paul from Boosted Films, and today we're going to go over the build specs and the costs associated with building my EVO. And it's been about a 3-year journey for me to get this car to where it is today, but I really like where it is right now. I like the power, I like the drivability. I don't have a whole lot of large plans in store for this car in the future, so it seemed like a good time to do this video. But of course, it's never really a good time sitting down and figuring out how much money you actually spent on a car. The price is usually always way higher than you think. So I'm going to do a couple things with this video. I'm going to lay out exactly what I have in my car. And then I'm also going to provide you with what I'd call reasonable new prices. So if you bought an EVO that was totally bone stock and you wanted to add these mods, but you were buying them new, or as new as possible in most cases, the price that you would look to pay in addition to the cost of your EVO. So I'm going to add up all that for just the power mods if you really were focused on only the power. And then I'm also going to do the same thing for my overall build and how much this build cost me. For myself, I did keep track pretty close of what I paid for almost everything, so I have my price. And then I'll also again compare that to the overall reasonable new list price that you would pay if you were buying everything new. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is cover fuel. The only upgrades I have to the fueling system are larger injectors and a larger fuel pump. The fuel injectors I have in this EVO are currently 1200cc high Z FIC fuel injectors, and these run about $500 brand new. And the fuel pump in this car is a Walbro 255, and these run about $70 to $80. And next, we're going to move on to the engine upgrades. And by engine upgrades, I actually mean internal engine upgrades. And with that, it's pretty simple. There's actually only one. The only thing I've done internally to this engine is add aftermarket cams. So the camshafts I'm running are GSC S1s, and typical price you're going to pay for these is around $600. Next, we're going to move on to my turbo and intercooler setup. This is indeed a stock EVO 9 turbo, so it was not stock to this car, but it was stock to the EVO 9, which is obviously very similar to this car. And usually you can find a used EVO 9 turbo for around $400 to $450. My actual front mount intercooler is a Spearco front mount intercooler, and I have not seen these around hardly anywhere. I found a really good deal on it though when I was building this car, so I picked it up and it's been working just fine. However, for pricing in this video, I'm going to use a comparable ETS front mount intercooler, and that would typically run you about $500. Now for the intercooler piping, I have a set of Injen Intercooler piping, and again, similar to the front mount intercooler, I would probably recommend looking into something like ETS or Buschur piping, and that's probably going to run you around $500 for just the piping. For the air intake setup, this is a Dejon Tool Intake with a K&N air filter. And if you haven't figured it out yet, all three of these previous items are kind of areas where I cut cost and saved because I bought older things. But again, if you want that new comparable price, you'd be looking at something like an STM intake, and you're going to run around $265 for that air intake. Another OEM Mitsubishi part is going to be the EVO 10 blow-off valve I used on mine, and you should easily be able to find one of those for under $100. And finally, you're going to need an electronic boost control solenoid. I have the GrimmSpeed Electronic boost control solenoid, and that runs about $115 new. Moving on to the exhaust, this car has a full Buschur Racing 3-inch exhaust. So that includes the downpipe and obviously the catback. The cost for this is pretty expensive. You're looking at over $1,000. It's going to run about $1,100 for a Buschur Racing full exhaust. My car also has a custom built O2 hood dump that dumps the internally gated turbo. It still just has the external dump out through the hood. Now, I could not find a comparable O2 hood dump like mine that has this kind of teardrop look to it. Most of them are kind of straight. I couldn't find that anywhere online. I picked it up used for a pretty good price, but for new pricing, reasonable new pricing in this video, we're again going to say this is about $300 for a JM Fab would kind of be the alternative you'd be looking at. And finally, for the power mods, I am going to include a new clutch, and my car has an Exedy twin disc clutch. That's going to run you around $1,200. So of course you might not need to include this in the power mods section, but I'm going to throw it in either way because if you are pushing close to 400 all-wheel horsepower, you're definitely going to have to upgrade that clutch, and you're going to be looking at spending close to $1,000 no matter what clutch you get if you really want it to be reliable. So add that all up, and your reasonable new price for all these power mods would get you just around $5,750. Yeah, that's higher than I thought it would actually be when I added all this stuff up. Luckily for me, because I bought certain things used and because I didn't buy the same brand names of everything that I'm talking about in this video, I actually ended up getting everything I've already mentioned for the price of $3,160. It's always nice to have the luxury of time on your side when you're doing a build like this, and since I built this car over 3-year span and it took me at least 1 year just to even get the car moving on its own, that really did give me time to search for deals along the way on parts I knew I wanted. And I just want to say, when it comes to buying these items new or used, I would definitely recommend buying the injectors, the fuel pump, and the clutch all brand new. The other items I mentioned and gone through, you can kind of look at those and get a good feel for whether or not they're in good condition before you buy anything used. So again, if all you cared about was getting close to 400 all-wheel horsepower, you can stop there. But for the rest of my specific build and other aftermarket parts I added to this car, we'll continue on. Back to the drivetrain, this EVO actually has an OEM Front LSD in the transfer case, so that's nice. And I also had a straight cut 4th gear installed in the transmission, and I believe that ran about $800. If you are interested in a straight cut 4th gear, you should reach out to RS Motors. They might still have some in stock. That's where I got mine from. It is a double synchroed straight cut 4th that is in my transmission. Moving on to the suspension, this is one area I would still like to kind of upgrade on this car. I just have a set of Megan coilovers and they ride okay. They were used, again, saving money. This helped keep the overall build cost down for me. But if you want an even decent set of coilovers, you're probably going to be looking at around $1,000. I also have the White Line roll center kit, so that did include new tie rod ends and new ball joints. Not sure if they should be included here as aftermarket or not, but adding them to the mix will throw in about another $200. Interior, of course, is pretty much bone stock, but I did add some gauges because I like to know what's going on with the car. I added an AEM wideband gauge, which would run you about $200. I have a Pro Sport boost gauge, which I believe was around $100. They don't really make this particular gauge anymore, so again, I'd probably just recommend going the AEM route if you're looking to kind of mirror this build. And I have an Innovate Motorsports ethanol content and fuel temp gauge, and that's going to run around $150. And just a few pretty pieces you probably noticed to shine things up. I have an ARC exhaust manifold heat shield that could typically run you around $250, maybe more. I was lucky I found this one for $100 because I had a crack in it right where I needed to cut it for the external hood dump anyways. So I have an ARC exhaust manifold heat shield. I also have a Toxic Fab cam sensor shield, and of course these custom painted items you see, like valve cover, the upper intercooler pipe, the strut brace, and even my battery tied down are painted all the same red. I was just able to do that while I was doing body work on this car. So what would be the final total cost of just buying all these parts? Again, this doesn't include labor, this doesn't include any maintenance on the car. This is just pretending you had a bone stock, good condition EVO to start with and wanted to make it just like mine. How much would it cost? Well, the reasonable new price cost would be $8,500. That's right, you would have to add $8,500 worth of modifications on top of the original cost of the EVO to get to a build where I am today. But the good news is, actually, I did add up my cost, and my cost was only $5,000, which, as I say, it still seems kind of crazy to me. So if I had the time to wait to buy every single piece you see on my car and buy it at the right time again, and had a bone stock EVO that I just wanted to add these parts to, it would still cost me $5,000. And again, I just have to reiterate that these figures do not include regular maintenance items, regular things you had to buy. I have a whole list of other items that I bought that were just, basic items I had to buy when I was building this roller, just OEM, regular parts, just radiator, starter, all these weird items, clutch, slave line, all this other stuff that went into building a roller. So if you haven't seen my advice on building a roller, I have a separate video about that you can certainly check out. And this still doesn't include some of the other little things people tend to forget, Like I have a Tactrix cable, I have a laptop, I have the EVO Scan software, I have a bunch of extra wheel options, and of course I have a bunch of spare parts. But hey, that's it for this video, guys. I might link to a spreadsheet with basic pricing if you want to check that out. I'd like to hear what you think. How much did you guys save when you built your EVO? Were you able to find some really good deals? Also, let me know if you ever kept track of your build, how much it cost you to build up your EVO comparable to mine. What were the end results? How do you feel now? If you haven't thought about it before, how do you feel now about the debate or the thought that mods don't add value? I mean, it obviously kind of seems true to me. If you spent $8,500 in these parts listed in this video and threw them on a bone stock EVO, you're not going to get $8,500 more for that car, especially if it was actually a bone stock EVO, because people would rather have a bone stock EVO. So I think that just speaks to people wanting to really build a car that they like, and they want to put things on there that they want to build it and make it their own. So it's just interesting to think about. But that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this video somewhat useful or mildly entertaining. As always, I appreciate everyone watching my videos. I appreciate the comments. I try to reach out to as many people as I can. When you reach out to me in my videos, it's much appreciated. So as always, this is Paul from Boosted Films saying thanks so much for watching.